Hey you! Yeah you! Do you like hack and slash action games? Do you like doing really long aerial combos? Do you like slaying mountains of demons like a fucking badass? Do you like doing all those things to the soundtrack of heavy metal? If you do, then that means you must like DmC Devil May Cry. What? You've never heard of this game? What are you, a fucking idiot? This game has all of those things, and it was released in 2013. What are you doing with your life? I first heard of this game when I was a little kid and I visited my friend's house to play some video games. He asked me, "Do you like Devil May Cry?" And I said, "No." And then he said, "Why?" And I said, "I don't know, I just never heard of it." And then he said, "What are you, a fucking idiot? What are you doing with your life?" And then he kicked me out of his house and never talked to me again. Just kidding, that didn't actually happen. Well, the part where he called me an idiot, the part where he kicked me out of his house, did happen. He very politely but firmly asked me to leave. But it's not like I can blame him because I was a fucking idiot for not having played this game before. I mean, it's like the hack and slash version of Doom. Don't tell me you've never heard of Doom either. Or else I'm going to have to do some very violent things to you. After my friend excommunicated me, I downloaded a demo for the game on my Xbox 360, and after playing it, I thought, yeah, this is a game I want to play. And after many years, I was able to finally get the game on PC, once I got around to it, and holy shit did it live up to my expectations. And now, I'm doing a review for all you people who still haven't heard about this game, so sit down, shut the fuck up, and listen to what I have to tell you. To summarize the premise quickly, you play as Dante, who's a Nephilim, which means he's half angel and half human, which gives him badass powers. Dante is reunited with his long-lost brother Virgil, also a Nephilim, and together they try to take down Mundus, their demonic uncle who has enslaved all of humankind without the humans even realizing that they are being controlled by the demons. They control the humans by sedating them with spiked energy drinks, brainwashing them with the media, and owning them through debt. Basically, Mundus is an evil capitalist. Now that I think of it, he kinda looks like Jeff Bezos.
Coincidence? I think not!
The story isn't too great, but it works well enough to give you a motivation to want to kill the demons. It's only when you really start to think about some of the details that it starts to not make sense. For example, where was Virgil when Mundus killed their mother right in front of Dante? Was he still at soccer practice and that's why he wasn't home? How does the demon Phineas know all this information about Dante, his parents, and Mundus? Why doesn't Mundus ever leave his tower? I get that that's where the hell portal is and that's the source of his power, but is a life where you can't leave your house a life really worth living? Oh, wait, I'm a YouTuber, I never leave the house either. Shit, never mind. Anyway, let's talk about the main and best part of the game, the combat. Weapons include Rebellion, a sword with medium speed and damage, Arbiter, a heavy axe with slow attacks and heavy damage, Osiris, a low damage weapon but with quick and wide sweeping attacks, Aquila, flying blades that Dante throws with even quicker attacks and more reach than the Osiris, Eryx, a heavy weapon which is just a set of comically large fists that can be charged up to deliver devastating blows that can launch even heavy enemies into the air. You also get a couple of guns like Ivory and Ebony, two rapid-firing pistols that can juggle enemies in midair, the Kablooey, which shoots explosive darts that stick to enemies and can be detonated at will, and my personal favorite, the shotgun called the Revenant. You also get two chains, one that pulls enemies towards you, and another that pulls you towards enemies, which is a fucking genius way of allowing players to continue combos. In other games, after you do that last move in a combo and the enemies go flying, you have to chase them down to continue the combo. Well, the creators of this game said fuck that and let you pull the enemies back towards you so you can keep beating the shit out of them. It makes the game feel super fast paced and it's just super fun to use. Why doesn't every video game have chains like these? Although I guess I have seen them being implemented into games like Halo Infinite, Doom Eternal, and Bulletstorm, which are all first-person shooters, which is a little weird. I feel like they'd be a lot better used in action games like this. You know, kind of like God of War. I mean, Kratos is using a set of swords on chains. You'd think that he can just wrap the chains around the enemies and then pull them, but whatever. I'm going off script right now. I digress. If that sounds like a lot of weapons, that's because it kinda is. During my first playthrough, I was surprised that I was still receiving new weapons up until the last mission of the game, and I found it really difficult to juggle between all the weapons when being swarmed by enemies, and doing so is essential because each weapon has moves that are specific to it. For example, the Osiris has an aerial move called Rake, which lifts up the enemy directly beneath you into the air. There's no other move in the game other than maybe using the demon chain that can fill this role, so you have to switch to the Osiris to yank grounded enemies into the air like this. It was a bit pain at first, but as I got better at the game, it became easier and I found myself cycling between all the weapons in the game and pulling off crazy combos which made me feel like a badass. The whole gimmick about this game is that you can do aerial combos where you can keep launching your enemies higher and higher into the air. The director of the original Devil May Cry came up with the idea for this mechanic while working on another game called Onimusha Warlords. There was a glitch in the game that allowed the player to hover in the air and juggle enemies while attacking with the sword. The glitch was removed from the game, but he knew badass when he saw it and implemented it into the Devil May Cry series. I think more game developers need to think like this. I feel like a lot of games today are focused on being gritty and realistic and forget about making the game actually fun to play. Between all the weapons, the chains which lets you chase down enemies, and being able to stay in the air indefinitely, you have so many options for combos that theoretically you can have a combo that never ends if you're good enough. You can even go above and beyond the moves the game intends once you find exploits. True to the glitch exploiting spirit the original Devil May Cry games had, people have discovered their own exploits in this game, like jump cancelling, where you repeatedly jump off an enemy's head and then quickly attack, which cancels the jump and lets you float in the same place in mid-air while continuously striking the enemy, and move buffering, where you can charge and attack while performing other actions. The game has a scoring system that rewards you for playing stylishly, which means pulling off long strings of combos involving all the weapons in your arsenal, and aerial combos earn more points than regular ones. This scoring system alone makes the game so much more fun to play by encouraging players to be more creative during combat, and more replayable by encouraging players to replay missions to beat their previous high scores and rise in the public leaderboards. Seriously, why don't modern games have scoring systems anymore? They were such an integral part to video games and made them more fun and competitive. Unfortunately, the game will not recognize the previously mentioned exploits as legitimate moves and will not reward you for them. So if you want to go for the highest of scores, you'll need to play the game the way it was intended. Even after 100 hours of playing the game, I was still discovering new tricks, like that you can lift heavy enemies with a charged scythe attack, you can use the Achilles round trip to interrupt most enemy attacks, and that if an enemy is blocking, you can attack them with a heavy weapon and eventually their defense will give out. There's lots of different enemies and each of them require different tactics to deal with, and the developers found lots of ways to mix the different combinations of enemies to come up with all sorts of scenarios that each require its own strategy. The controls on mouse and keyboard took a bit of getting used to. I would have used a controller, but I just had the smallest amount of controller lag, which could be a death sentence in a fast-paced game like this. Plus, I couldn't adjust the look speed, and trying to look around with the analog stick felt super sluggish, so using the keyboard and mouse overall just felt way more responsive. I wish the developers would have taken advantage of the extra keys available with the PC port. You have to switch weapons with the mouse wheel and it can be really awkward. It would have been so much easier if they just assigned the weapons to the number keys like in every other PC game. But oh well. This game has the run-of-the-mill easy, normal, and hard difficulties, but then has some extra difficulty modes that go beyond simply increasing damage received and decreasing damage dealt. The difficulty mode called Dante Must Die completely changes the experience of the game by replacing the enemy spawns with new, more difficult ones. There's also Heaven and Hell, which makes all enemies and Dante die in one hit. It sounds like it would make for an interesting challenge, but it's actually a lot easier than any of the other difficulty modes because, well, it's the only one where the enemies can die in one hit. All you need to do is whip out Ebony and Ivory and just lay waste to all the demons, although you still need to switch up your weapons to get a decent score. And then there's Hell and Hell, which makes all the enemies have normal health, but Dante will die in one hit. Well, sort of, not... I mean, yes. You see, Dante does die in one hit, but they give you 3 lives, so technically 3 hits? Yeah, it depends on how you want to look at it. If you're really good at the game, it can make for a really great challenge, and for the most part, the game remains really balanced. Except at the Virility Factory, at that one part where the fucking toxic piss-ass looking sludge is leaking everywhere, because if you so much as touch the stuff, you fucking die, and the hitbox for it comes before the texture of the liquid is actually visible, so you're just gonna be walking around and then fucking die for no reason, and be like, what the fuck just happened? And then you're gonna realize, oh, it's the stupid fucking piss that I couldn't see yet. But anyways, the only other game that I've seen implement this kind of thing is Resident Evil 7, and I think more games need to do stuff like this. P.S. Resident Evil 7 is a really good game that I also want to do a review on, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe. There are a few complaints that I have about the combat. For example, a lot of the charge attacks in the game take way too long to charge to be useful unless you're good at move buffering, which to be honest I don't have a good grasp on how to do. I didn't find the Osiris very useful. It's supposed to be a good weapon for crowd control, but the attacks don't have enough range or speed to be able to do that, and it just makes way more sense to use the Aquila most of the time for crowd control. I wish the Revenant was more responsive. It's not a good idea to fire it in mid-air repeatedly because unlike the pistols, Dante tends to drop when it's fired, making it difficult to chain aerial combos, and generally it just feels a little stiff to use use and it's not too fluid. My least favorite weapon in the game is the kablooey. You get it at the very end of the game, so you don't even get that much of a chance to use it on your first playthrough. You're supposed to be able to use it to create openings in your enemy's defenses by sticking them with the dart and then detonating it when they're blocking, which leaves them open, which sounds great, but the problem is it only sticks if their defenses are already down. So it seems pointless to use an opportunity when the enemy's defense is down to plant a seed that you're going to take advantage of later, when you could just use the opening to attack directly and deal damage right then and there. Also, for some reason I have the hardest time getting them to detonate. On mouse and keyboard you have to press space and right click at the same time, and most of the time instead of detonating the dart I just end up jumping like 3 times before it finally goes off. Also, it doesn't seem very good for combos. It tends to launch enemies into the air, which can potentially open them up for some aerial combos, but there are a ton of other moves that you can use to achieve the same effects far easier. Another thing is the rules surrounding the combat are inconsistent at times. You see, dodging in this game gives you a brief moment of invincibility, so as long as you time it right, you can just pass through enemy weapons and projectiles. So I was super confused as to why I was taking damage from the butcher's saw blades that he threw along the ground, even though I was hitting the dodge button at the right time. Then I realized that I needed to jump over the blades. I mean, it kinda makes sense that you have to jump because they're on the ground instead of flying through the air, but in the context of the rest of the game, where the location of the enemy weapons and projectiles doesn't matter as long as you time it right, no, it doesn't make sense that I have to jump to avoid this one specific attack from this one specific enemy. Also, the timing for doing an aerial dodge has to be way more precise than a regular dodge for some reason, and the timing on when you need to dodge certain attacks from certain enemies makes no sense compared to all the other attacks in the game. For example, to dodge the ridiculous looking spinning attacks from the rages, you have to press the dodge button before they even launch towards you. Once they actually launch towards you, Dante will have finished his dodging animation and it looks like he's going to get hit by the attack, but he just doesn't. It was really frustrating to figure out what the hell was going on, and it was really weird getting used to hitting the dodge button so early. The game has a couple of bosses and yeah, they're okay. Some are better than others. I, for example, really like the fight against the succubus. This fight was in the demo and I found it hilarious that she's supposed to be this ancient demon and she's just having these petty arguments with Dante and she swears like a sailor.
You can't tell me. I'm 1,200 years old.
You don't look a day over 12,000.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
I'm going to pull off your arms and legs, chew them up, and puke them all over your weapon. I'm going to pull off your head, based on your lips, and sleep on your worthless combos.
But my absolute least favorite boss is Mundus. Minor spoilers, near the end of the game, Dante distracts Mundus so that Virgil can shut down the Hell Gate, which takes away Mundus' immortality. Virgil stabs Mundus and Dante throws him down a building. While the two are talking, Mundus takes on his true, demonic form. He sucks in all the cars, streetlights, and buildings to become
The trash man. I come out, I throw trash all over the ring, and then I start eating garbage.
Seriously, that's the best way I can describe it. Mundus turns into Garbage Man. He's a literal pile of garbage. It has such cool concept art for other designs that they could have used for Mundus, but they decided to go with Garbage Man. And the fight with him is so boring. All you do is attack his hands until they blow up. Then he really conveniently puts his face really close to you so you can pluck out his eyes. And then when you destroy both of his arms, he just throws meteors at you and he occasionally does this pointless roar and gets real close to you. Almost like he's saying, okay, time for you to hit me in the face. Yep, right there, right in the face, yeah. But that's pretty much it for the combat and gameplay. Let's move on to the game's graphics, which are really good, especially for a game that came out 8 years ago. The characters are so detailed you can see the pores in their skin, and the lighting and post-processing effects make the environments look freaking beautiful. This game is extremely aesthetic, almost as much or just as much as Alice Madness Returns. And once you look at the concept art, you can see why. The concept art for this game is just oozing with vibes and atmosphere. The concept art that was created before the concepts for the game were solidified is especially crazy because you can tell that the artists were just spitballing and putting whatever crazy ideas they had on paper to see if anything stuck. Some of the cutscenes in the game use partially animated artwork from the concept artist, and my god does it look badass! I love the one where Dante is holding his dead mother while the angels look on and weep. It reminds me of the style of paintings they would do back in the Renaissance. Unlocking the concept art was one of my favorite parts of playing the game, and I liked the art so much I saved the images and made them wallpapers for my computer. The aesthetics of the art shines through in the level design. The carnival/madhouse theme of the first level, the trippy dream world that Dante goes into when he recovers a memory, the second mission when you're walking through the city and the city itself is trying to kill you. This was actually the mission that I played during the demo. The virility factory where everything is floating and has this sickly green tints to it. The underwater tower where everything is upside down because you're actually inside the reflection of the water. The part where it looks like you're inside a TV news show. Lilith's club where there's crazy lights and disco balls floating around and shit. I'm having an orgasm just thinking about that level. The animations of both the characters and the enemies are so lifelike. These guys killed it with the motion capture. I can't imagine the amount of work and money that went into making this game. And the soundtrack. Oh, the soundtrack! Just listen to the music during these clips.
Back in limbo. Bad day for a hangover. Get your filthy fucking claw off my trailer. I will suffer. I will burn. Let hate prevail.
So yeah, pretty much in a nutshell, I highly recommend this game, and that's gonna be it for today. I would really appreciate if you could like, subscribe, and comment. I quit my job to do YouTube full time, so any little bit of support is really important. If you want to support even more, you can visit the links in the description to go to my website and get some music from me, some original music written by yours truly. Maybe even buy some merch. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today. I'll see you next time. Okay, time for you to hit me. Okay, time for you to Okay. Okay.
Damn, who the hell's a motherfucker down the street? Oh shit, that's me, and I'm about to make like my bitch. Ain't no one stopping this one-man war machine. Two in the head, one in the chest, fucking clean. Top tier badass.